The topic of music in any form of media is always an interesting one to dissect. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about the intricacies of musical compositions, but what I can say is that I know how music makes me feel, and that's why I'm here once again discussing the use of dynamic music in my utmost favourite medium, video games. In the time since my original delve into dynamic music, I've been keeping a close ear to the games I've been playing, as well as looking into examples recommended to me by friends and relatives. It's safe to say that I've been blown away by the examples that have managed to elude me for all these years. Games I have previously experienced continue to surprise me as I keep the thought of dynamic music in mind whenever I'm playing anything. I have also been equally impressed with suggestions showing just how passionate composers can be when implementing musical tracks into their games. So without further ado, it's time once again to prepare those earholes for some fantastic examples of the uses of dynamic music within video games. Allow me to take you back in time a bit to the year 1997. A certain composer, someone you may have heard of if you take an interest in video game music, a legendary man going by the name David Wise, probably best known for his astounding work on the Donkey Kong Country franchise. Well, this incredible musician also composed music for one of my personal favourite kart racing games, Diddy Kong Racing. And I cannot believe I've managed to completely miss this, having played the game many times myself over the years. Let's just have a little bit of a wander on the character select screen so you can hear this incredible work of audible genius. The thing that impresses me most about this example is how much the small change of instrumentation can give you a glimpse into the personality of a character without having any prior knowledge of them, which can help with the character selection process, especially when you have no prior knowledge of the characters. It's also worth mentioning that the hubboard music shifts its arrangement as you move between its varying locations, matching the theme of each area. The next example of dynamic music that I want to draw attention to is featured in No Straight Roads. In fact, I have an entire video covering No Straight Roads, so if you're interested in that, go check it out. I think Metronomic, the developers behind the game, managed to do an astounding job on the sound mixing within the game. The music is incredibly infectious, and something that really helps it along is the way that it deals with presenting that to the player. On your way to boss encounters, you will be fighting through enemy guards and proceeding through security gates, and as you pass each one, a transitional segment plays linking the background music together as it gains momentum and becomes increasingly intense, hyping you up for the coming fight. The same can be said for boss encounters themselves, as they are broken up into phases. Each has its own individual section on a loop until the conditions for the next phase are met, again gradually intensifying, while the song shifts to a more rocky composition as you continue to edge further into the fight, demonstrating through the power of music your gradual victory over the boss. Continuing with our deep dive into dynamic music, if you have ever had the unfortunate pleasure of being underwater in a modern game, then you are likely to have come across this particular shift in music. I have noticed it most in platformers, probably due to that being the genre that I play a lot of, but regardless of what game it's in, it often evokes the feeling of sluggishness if your character isn't proficient in an underwater environment. The example that comes to mind most recently for me personally would be in Sonic Rush. Once you become submerged in water, the music becomes distorted, giving off feelings of helplessness, knowing this isn't where you're most comfortable. Your movement speed is impaired compared to normal, and the change in music reflects that. That was just one example of dynamic change in an underwater environment, but let me know if you know of any others. Since we're on the topic of Sonic, a similar kind of distortion can be heard on land in Sonic games when boosting, which is attempting to represent the breaking of the sound barrier. It uses what sounds like a high-pass filter dampening the bass of the song, similar to what you would hear when something loud is passing by at high speeds, distorting the music in such a way that it adds to the immersion of going fast. Recently, I stumbled upon a shift in music that I hadn't given proper consideration to before. However, upon hearing how it gradually ramps up in intensity really does a great job of getting the player hyped for what is about to come, that I just had to bring attention to it. The aforementioned example is actually menu music, would you believe? The game that brought this to my attention in the first place is Ring Fit Adventure. From the moment you launch the game, you are sent to its Suit Up guide, which contains a primitive percussionless rendition of Ring Fit's main theme, which gives off a feeling of calm ambience before you get further into the menu. Once the player leaves the Suit Up guide, the menu theme introduces some light percussion into the song seamlessly as it transitions into the next section of the menu. The menu doesn't stop there though. Once you hold in your ring con and get even further into the menu, the song slides in another layer of bass, further enhancing the overall intensity of the track and complementing that pre-workout hype. After hearing this example for myself, it got me thinking about if I had noticed more dynamic music in menus before, and to my surprise, there was. The first example that came to mind is from Mario Kart Wii. From the moment you enter the Mode Select menu, you are met with a track using only percussion and bass, which again seamlessly introduces a lead melody when you delve deeper into the game's menu. Now reaching the character and kart select section, then transitioning into the final sub-menu being the cup selection, adding a further layer of percussion, building up the song yet again to get the player hyped for the coming races. If you know of any other menu themes that build up and change as you move through them, then please let me know, as I'm sure there's many others that I've experienced before, but I just can't seem to remember them, as it's something I never thought of the impact of until recently. The final game I'm going to talk about in this video is also a menu theme, and isn't necessarily as dynamic as the other examples I've talked about. However, it's definitely worth a mention because of how memorable and impactful it is to me. And the game in question is of course Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Anyone who has had the pleasure of playing this game before and has at least reached the second world of the game should know exactly where this is going. Once you begin the game and enter the stage select screen for the first time, you are introduced to the bass of the overall track, completely enjoyable and catchy on its own, but as you journey through the numerous levels that Yoshi's Island has to offer, that same bass track grows in intensity, adding on a layer of instrumentation for every new world that you enter, starting with this, eventually reaching its full potential going into this. reason this resonates with me so much is because the song grows in time with the player. It's a musical representation of the journey that you've been on and demonstrates on a per-world basis that the journey is slowly reaching its happy ending, with the Yoshis completing their quest to save baby Luigi. All the music featured in the game is incredibly catchy, and I felt like the map theme in particular stands out for the progressive music alone. If for some reason you haven't tried this game for yourself, then seek it out and play this incredible game. That's all the games I have to talk about today. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed this second volume of dynamic music in games as much as I have had making it. Let me know in the comments of any examples that I haven't covered, or anything that resonates with you in games that I haven't mentioned. Be sure to check out my video on the first volume of dynamic music in games. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I can bring you another volume of dynamic goodness in the future. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.